Just as Gi returned to his seat, there was a knock on the door. It opened to reveal Shuna, the aroma of tea drifting in the air and dispelling the tension. She also had some slices of cake on a tray, so we took a break. I've already decided there's no escape for me, so I promise this isn't me procrastinating on my problems. Shuna had more tea and cake in the next room over, so my 2 secretaries and his 2 maids went over there. I thought they'd gripe about that, but they were surprisingly obedient about it. I took a sip of Shuna's tea. It had a soft, gentle flavor. Tensura's tea was all but complete perfection, but this was rather tasty as well, in a comforting way. Huh. This is pretty good, isn't it? I was glad to hear Gi was satisfied. Oh, you're right. And this cake is more than just a bunch of sugar, there's so many layers of depth to it. The tea has a lovely, full-bodied aroma, but the bitterness only serves to enhance the sweetness. Velzert seemed to like it too. That's a relief. Yeah. This room's got some nice decoration, too, doesn't it? I really dig furnishings like these. I wasn't expecting to hear that from Gi. A tyrant like him would have been the last person in the world, I thought, to understand stuff like wabi-sabi. Guess I really need to stop judging people on preconceived notions like that. They say that the warlord Oda Nobunaga was into this sort of look as well. He liked to spend time in tea rooms where he didn't have to worry about his social status. Maybe he valued the ability to reflect on matters over some tea that way. I'm just making all that up, but still, I guess showing Gi in here was the right move, after all. Feeling a little more at ease, I decided to elicit some more feedback. Oh, yeah. I'm glad you like it. You're actually the first people I've entertained in here. It's the most extravagant reception room we have, so I only show it off to people I want to impress. Yeah. Trying to make yourself look good around me. I sure am. Can't really be a demon lord if I didn't, you know. If I was willing to abandon all my pride, I'd just spend my life sneaking around in the shadows instead. Which would have been fun, maybe, but... Right. So a quick jab to start. Show him that I wasn't at his total mercy before I heard him out. Depending on his reaction, I'd adjust how I dealt with him. But Gi just laughed at how much I was overcompensating. Ah ha ha. Trying to feel out the likes of me, eh? Hilarious. It wasn't, but at least I knew I was still wrapped around his finger now. Yeah, thanks. But no worries. What I want from you, you know, it'll help you guys as well, alright. I just want you to keep the war going and destroy the empire. Gi paused to take a graceful sip of his tea. He's totally in his element here, like some kind of fairy tale king. I mean, demon lords pretty much are kings or queens in this world, but regardless. But how'd you like to throw me a fastball straight down the middle like that, huh? In other words, you want me to reduce Rudra's pawns to 0 without killing him. Given your apparent reluctance to answer Benameri's question, I'm assuming it's something like that. Well, you know, there aren't any real strict rules for determining a winner in this game. The only actual rule we have is that players can't meddle with each other directly. So if the opponent admits defeat or dies, or it's impossible to continue the game itself, any of those conditions will count as a win. I suppose so. Gi nodded, taking another sip. As he put it, he and the Emperor had been duking it out for over 2,000 years. Not directly fighting, mind you, they had a few scrapes before then, but once Milim was born, and Veldanava the Starking Dragon perished, they began exercising a little more restraint. Whenever they had a battle, the impact on the world was just too great, they could no longer throw everything they had into the conflict. It was a wild story, but one look at Gi in front of me, and I knew he wasn't fibbing. So the game continued to the present day, Gi building up his pawn count while maintaining the world's balance. A lot of his monsters enjoyed incredibly long lifespans, and he was patiently waiting for them to evolve over time. But nobody, not even his fellow Octogram members, knew Gi's true intentions. Not even Milim, he claimed, was aware of the game between him and Rudra. Then were you telling me? Why do you think? You're the first person in all these years to push Rudra this far. Gi didn't need me to inform him that the Imperial army had been annihilated. With all the gigantic magic spells we were tossing around, I'd be shocked if he didn't notice, but... Killing them all was absolutely the correct answer, though. You kept Rudra from earning any more pieces for himself. Sounds like Gi knew Rudra's objective here, too. Thanks to him, I now had a fully accurate version of the story. The Emperor, in so many words, was giving his elite soldiers a trial to endure a crushing defeat, where the survivors would, hopefully, evolve for him. The basic idea was to gin up an excuse for war the citizenry would accept, expose his army to a lethal threat, and get as many survivors evolved as he could. He had proof it worked too, because the failed Imperial expedition against Valdora long ago produced a certain number of enlightened. Gi had taken a similar approach. Non-awakened, to him, were useless as pawns, and so he tacitly accepted conflicts between demon lords. The more true demon lords that got awakened, the more of an upper hand he'd have in the game. That was the whole basis for his strategy, and after that, it was just a matter of timing. Once he was absolutely certain he was above his opponent, that's when he'd stake it all. It had proven to be surprisingly difficult, however, what with all the obstacles in the way. So they had kept on playing up to now, with no winner decided. For both Guy and Rudra, it was a grandiose operation, one that seemed to stretch across countless generations. For most life on this world, it was nothing but an annoyance, but for the two of them, it was probably just a way to fill their free time. And this time, too, if even a few dozen people could have survived an encounter with Vildora, some of them were bound to be awakened. I'm sure that's what Rudra assumed. So I didn't even register in Rudra's mind, then. That must have made me one hell of a game piece for Guy. It's a little frustrating, but that's the reality here. And you want me to use this current opening to attack the Empire? Well, I'll leave the method up to you. And I know this goes without saying, but merely posing as a superpower is pointless. I'm sure he's right. A show of force was no threat to these guys. It'd just lead to more casualties without offering any strategic advantage. So forget about me sending a massive army or anything. If you happen to know this, is there anyone in Rudra's forces we should be particularly on guard for? I don't know. My focus has always been on how well I can train my own hand in this game. If I'm the strongest, after all, then it doesn't matter how weak or strong the other guy is, right? Just the kind of arrogance I'd expect from a tyrant like him. This is the type of guy who never bothers looking at his opponent's discards in a poker game then, just when you think you beat him, away he goes with a full house like it was nothing. Masayuki, too, was the sort of guy who could draw a royal flush straight off the deck. I wouldn't want to sit at a card table with either of them. But all this game talk's getting me sidetracked. Well, either way, I think we need to get things crystal clear with the Empire and soon. That's based on my own credo, though, not because you asked me to. We couldn't put this problem off any longer. We needed to open dialogue with Emperor Rudra at once. And if we did, it'd be smarter to come in with as much of an advantage as we could. You're not planning to travel there yourself, are you, Sir Rimuru? Benimaru looked a bit put off. But I wasn't bending. What else can I do? I can't leave Yuki out to dry. I want to join up with him instead, and then we can hopefully work out peace on our terms. Wouldn't that be dangerous? It's gonna be dangerous no matter what I do. Let's say that someone else goes out there and signs a peace treaty. Would you trust in that at all? I sure couldn't. It'd clearly be a conspiracy to catch me off guard and then, while I'm out walking in the woods or whatever, they'd send out their assassins to get me. I'd have to be on guard at all times, and that's gonna majorly crimp the life of leisure I'm trying to build here. I certainly don't want that to happen, so I needed to settle this matter for good. That's a fair point. Who will guard you? You, of course. Benimaru gave this a half grin. That is fine by me. He certainly seemed confident. I knew I could rely on him. Seeing this exchange made Guy chuckle. Ahaha. You're a funny guy, but so's your associate over there. I sensed something a bit odd about him, too. Maybe he's still got some room to evolve. He might, yeah. Benimaru's already the most trusted of my inner circle. Oh? What and not Diablo? Yeah, he's strong, but, you know, kind of a handful. I hear you. This felt like heartfelt sympathy from Guy. That and also him treating me as a friend. I could tell from his reaction that he's got a lot of problems of his own. Now, there's one thing I want to confirm with you. What is it? Rudra's got the ability to confer ultimate skills on other people, right? He gave me a thoughtful look, eyes squinting. Well spotted. Yes, Rudra's got quite the remarkable little trick there, lending his powers to others like that. Thought so. And do you know how this lending works, exactly? This was important. If Guy knew the terms of this deal, it'd help us narrow down the list of people in the Empire we had to watch out for. Right now, that list couldn't have been more than 10 people by my estimation, but I didn't want to work entirely on assumptions. Don't worry. That power's not omnipotent or anything. He can only hand out powers for a limited time, and they're degraded versions, too. As for who qualifies, well, I know you have to be awakened to receive the power, at least. That and there's some other restrictions, too, that I'm not fully aware of. It's really not as much of a threat as it sounds like. It was a real Hail Mary of a question, but he gave a remarkably quick, succinct answer. That's just about all the intel I need, I think. But, it'd really take someone like Guy to say that passing out ultimate skills isn't a threat, you know. I was starting to think Millam and Guy were cut from the same cloth. These differences in perception were needlessly complicating my job. Watching Guy as he tucked into his slice of cake, I couldn't help but resent him a little. Seeing him talk about world-altering battle while enjoying a fancy-pants tea-time snack annoyed me, and the way he treated me like yesterday's news, once I accepted his request, was similarly irritating. But wait a second. We're supposed to be talking about some important stuff here. Or so I think, at least. But despite that, our little private chat seemed to be at its end, somehow. Disgusted, I stabbed my fork into my cake. Nothing like a little sugar to get the brain going. Time to sort out everything I've learned without letting Guy get under my skin too much.